everybody, this is Tara Chambers. I'm at Michigan State.
Hi, April Peters-Hawkins at the University of Houston.
Gerardo Lopez, University of Utah.
Great. So April, Gerardo, and Tara are on the EC, and we're going to sort of be walking you through this orientation and hopefully giving you some information that will be helpful to you in the coming months and years, and will help you understand how the plenum works, how UCEA works, and other things that we have going on. So if we could go to the next slide. Can I control the slide? No. Oh, it's down here. Let me see. All right, great. So as I said, we have a couple of things that we want to go over with you and share. Like I said, we want to give you an overview of UCA as an organization and what are some of the parts of UCA and how those work together. We want to give you a sense of what it means to be a PSR, your responsibilities, your roles, and opportunities. Then we want to give you an overview of UCA resources and initiatives that are going on now that that you should know about as a way to make sure that you're knowledgeable of what's happening. And then we'll give you a really quick overview of what the plenum in November is going to be entailing. And then at the end, we'll have some questions and answers and hopefully have some conversation if there's anything that's not clear. You can go to the next slide. Great. So there's sort of four interconnected parts of the organization. We have a membership. We have a vision that we articulated that is attached to some values and goals. So again, we wanted to give you a sense of how the organization works and what are some of the things that we believe in. I think Tara,
Yep,
is going to be talking about membership.
so I think I have the next two slides. UCEA has grown tremendously over the last few years. We're now a consortium of over 100 institutions, research doctoral granting institutions, and we are all focused on advancing the preparation and practice of educational leaders for the benefit of schools and children. We also have a growing interest from international institutions, and so that's something that we've been talking about as an EC and encouraging. And then in addition to traditional academic partnerships, we have also developed memorandums of understanding with related international education leadership networks of various sorts. So we are a diverse membership and we are changing every year. Next slide. Uh-oh.
Yeah, it's moving on its own.
It's going beyond what we're supposed to go to. So it's supposed to say vision. So until it gets back to where it is, I'll just start talking about UCEA's vision.
There you go.
So we are a community of scholars. We're committed to the improvement of leadership and policy that supports the learning and development of all children. We actively initiate and lead educational reform efforts through high-quality research and preparation programs. Our institutions work collaboratively with schools and educational agencies to positively influence local, state, and national educational policy. And we are always questioning and reevaluating our practice and our beliefs to ensure that we are effective and relevant.
Can you talk us through the values?
Yes, it's my turn to talk about the values of UCEA. I think that when we think about the values, there are really kind of three major values that we have. The first being learning and the social development for all children. The second being quality and excellence in the preparation of school leaders and professors. And the third being professional community, collegiality, and respect for diverse perspectives. When we talk about the first, learning and social development of all children, I think it's important that we emphasize this concept of all children. I think that's it's par for the course. We've been doing that. We believe that in within UCEA, and we take that very serious. As an organization, as individuals within the organization, we do believe in the education of all children, and we do believe that the contributions that we make as an organization should always be in the interest of the success of all children. We support inquiry that's relevant, that's integral, that's essential, if you will, to the success of all children, to the success of schools, to the success of school leaders in the interest of all children. So that's the first value. The second one, quality and excellence in the preparation of school leaders and professors. Again, it's important for us to think about what does it mean to prepare school leaders to work with all children, to promote the success of all children. That means collaborating with schools, collaborating with other service agencies, collaborating with professional organizations. Again, that will gear us towards better school preparation of school leaders and the development of professors who will develop school leaders towards that end. The third value as an organization is the concept of professional community and collegiality, and that really engenders respect for diversity of perspectives. We believe that in diversity and equity and social justice in all educational organizations, and we believe that our work should inform educational policy that positively supports the learning and development of all children. And again, the emphasis is on all, and that's I would say that is a key kind of summary of the main values of UCEA as an organization. Moving right along to the next slide, with respect to goals, I think that UCEA is an organization that aims to promote, to sponsor, and to disseminate research on the essential problems of schooling, on the issues related to leadership practice, issues that aim to improve the preparation and professional development of school leaders and professors, and issues that positively influence local, state, and national educational policy. So I think that we really need to kind of, there are multiple goals that are embedded in that, but the goals really cut across the local, state, and national levels.
Okay, and so I'd like to talk to you a little bit about your roles and responsibilities as a plenum rep. And so we think about these in terms of your legal role, your linkage role, and your leadership role. And so can we go to the next slide? So first, let's talk about your legal role as a plenum rep. And I think this is, hopefully this will be very helpful. I know when I was a plenum rep, I had questions about exactly what were my responsibilities as a rep in terms of my link between UCEA and my institution. And so if you think about your legal role, what is it that your function is to do as a member of the plenum? There are a few things. So one of the functions of plenum rep is to participate in elections. And so you have the right and the responsibility to participate in elections of the members to the executive committee, as well as the president of the University Council for Educational Administration. You also participate in making changes to the bylaws with respect to the governance of the organization, as well as finances. In addition to that, plenum reps are involved in making decisions about the annual budgets of UCEA, so that involves not only approving but hearing updates about the budgets. And then finally, we can't do this work without our membership. And so you've heard of, Tara talked about the number of members that we have, I think it was, in UCEA. And so what your responsibility as a plenum rep is to do is to vote in new members and also decide on any changes to membership. Next slide, please. Okay, in addition to that role actually functioning in the plenum, so when the plenum meets, you'll do those things. You have a linkage role so that what happens in the plenum gets communicated back at your home institution, and not only that, that you represent your home institution as well. So your linkage role is multifaceted as well. So one of the first facets of that is in terms of programs. So you would carry information that connects or links the UCEA staff and relevant others with respect to your faculty, your graduate students, your college and university administration, and other educational agencies in your area that have interests that are coincidental to those of UCEA. And you'd share this information, including information about how to get involved with research or service projects with department colleagues and with students in your department also. Another function would be to help to maintain your department's directory so that information that UCEA has about each member institution's membership or departmental staff is current and updated. And then you would report on UCEA activities at your regular faculty meetings and solicit their thoughts prior to any decisions. And often the way that looks is you'll get an email that contains information as a plenum rep. You'll get some time before you have to submit your response, and in that time what we're hoping and expecting is that you will go back to your departmental colleagues and necessary other constituents and receive feedback so that you're representing the best interests of the people whom you represent as a plenum rep. So you represent your institution on all voting matters, and so we want to make sure that you get that input. Next slide, please. And then finally, you have a leadership role. And so leadership that has come to be expected of UCEA concerns the design and preparation programs and professional activities of faculties of the university. So there's a lot of potential for direct impact on the field of leadership development. So concerning that, there's program improvement where you would work with colleagues to implement program redesign based on UCEA efforts, and there will be much more information that will continue to be shared about that. Within UCEA, there are opportunities to participate in data gathering initiatives such as the Inspire surveys and other things that are going on, to share local needs and developments, to maintain your department's UCEA directory, as I mentioned earlier, so that information is current and updated. There are professional learning leadership roles, which will allow you the opportunity to stay up to date with changes in policy and up to date with changes in the field, to engage in professional development opportunities during the plenum and the convention and throughout the year. And throughout the year, we host things such as webinars and different cafes that will give you the opportunity to participate in those sessions. And then finally, with respect to networks, the key word is network, network, network. So the plenum meetings and conferences give you an opportunity to network with other colleagues in the field, to share your interests, and also to get involved with the leadership of UCEA. So don't be shy about that. There are lots of opportunities to do that, lots of us around who you can ask questions to and get information from, and it helps to get involved and use your PSR network as a way to do that.
We've had a few, before you go on, I'm sorry, we've about having access to the PowerPoint. So if you go under the handouts tab to the right in the control panel, you'll see that the PowerPoint is there. And I think Stephanie mentioned that we are recording this, so we'll also be sending the link back out to everyone in case you need to hear anything again.
I'll just move right along, if that's okay.
Yep, thank you.
Just as April had mentioned, network as being one of the key components of the function of UCEA and kind of playing a leadership role within it. I think that getting the most out of a PSR, the three things that come to mind, are get involved, get involved, get involved. It's important for you to understand that what we're asking for is a 3-year commitment from you. And that, for multiple reasons, is important. It provides that kind of consistent leadership within the plenum. It ensures that we have a continuity in our organizational knowledge. It ensures that you are a visible player within the organization. And just for a whole host of reasons, it's important for you to understand that what we're asking for is a 3-year commitment. It does us no good as an organization if we keep turning the PSRs around every year and having to retrain folks and having to kind of re-educate them about the organizational knowledge, et cetera. But in terms of involvement, there are so many different initiatives happening within UCEA. It's important for you to kind of participate in as many ongoing initiatives as you possibly can, and really, make a concerted effort to not only bring UCEA into your respective organizations in the form of talking about the efforts that we're doing as an organization to your faculty, and trying to get folks kind of informed of the pulse of some of the larger policy issues, for example, that we're tackling and dealing with. But it's also important to bring your organization into UCEA and to provide that a space for us to learn about the great work that you all are doing within your respective organizations. I think that if you can think about this role as being kind of the link between your respective institution and kind of this larger network of organizations that are geared towards leading and changing the profession in positive directions, that I think you're going to get the most out of being the PSR in this organization. So that's all I have to say.
Oh, I guess resources is me. So, actually, some of you may not be aware of all of the resources that are available to us. Some of them are more obvious than others, but I continue to be surprised at how much information is available to us through UCEA. So I just want to talk a little bit about some of those resources. So the first, many of you are aware of our journals and publications. We have EAQ, JRLE, UCEA Review, and the policy briefs. All are published through UCEA. They're all sponsored by our organization. In terms of the website and web-based resources, I don't know if you know that, but you now have administrative access through the website. And through that administrative access, you can check on a variety of different things for your institution, like whether your institution has paid dues or not. And I know that was a big thing for me when I was a PSR at a previous institution. It was, and some of you may be in the same boat, where there are a couple of people who have involvement. Like, I never had any control over the money, but I was the PSR, and so I would have to tell people to pay. And whether or not the dues actually got paid, I wouldn't know, so I would be checking with people. Well, now you can go on the website and check yourself to see if your institution has paid its dues. There's calendar kinds of information, all kinds of stuff that you can have access to now, and so I encourage you to, in your copious amounts of free time, to go and check on the website and look at all the things that you have access to. But we, just like today's webinar, we have a variety of webinars on other topics. They're on ESSA, other leadership issues. We also have the UCEA Cafe, which is a web-based interactive talk show We've gotten a lot of positive feedback from that. We also have a YouTube channel where you can get a variety of resources. There are recordings of webinars. Then, of course, I'm sure you know that we have a presence on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram. There's also a blog that's connected with the website, and we update that very frequently. It's not like blogs on other websites that kind of just sit there. We try to actively update that content. So there's a lot of resources through the website and through these web-based resources, social media, those kinds of things. You're also probably aware of the Inspire survey and a number of program improvement tools. There's the Professional Development Network that recently went out, and I know there was a huge response to that. So we have really been on the move in terms of making UCEA a resource for you that's not just about coming to a convention, but really offers a lot back. And I think a lot of us are really proud of that Inspire survey and a lot of the other things that we do. And then we also put out this Policymakers Guide, the Research-Based Policy for Principal Prep Program Approval and Licensure, and the modules on Leaders to Support Diverse Learners. So again, if some of these things are new to you or you haven't heard about them, or maybe you've heard about them but you didn't know that it was a UCEA resource, I encourage you to poke around on the website. Like I said, I'm continually surprised at what the depth of information is on UCEA.org. There's a lot there. Whenever I'm trying to do something new in a course, I often go back to the UCE website because for example, there's stuff on equity audits. I was just fooling around online one day and found a bunch of resources on equity audits, which is very relevant to the coursework that I teach. So I encourage you to poke around there. Okay, next slide.
Great, thanks, Tara. Other direction, please. So I'm going to start talking to you a little bit about our initiatives while we get to that slide. I think both Gerardo and Tara have talked about things that are going on that UCA has been working on over time. From the modules were developed several years ago through an intense effort by faculty. And the policy, the state-by-state policy manual the manual for policymakers was also an initiative that that took some time to put together. So we're constantly, developing new projects, finishing old projects, and imagining new ones. So two of the ones that you probably have not seen yet are emails that we've sent out regarding a threat analysis survey and a network analysis survey. And it came out of some conversations that happened both at the plenum and at headquarters in a policy work group, and trying to get information on what threats exist for programs and faculty in those programs, things like competition and new budgeting models. So we wanted to get a sense from plenum reps what they thought were some of the threats to their program and challenges to their program improvement efforts. There's also a network analysis survey that went out to plenum reps, asking plenum reps and other faculty. Actually, it's been expanded to include other faculty as well as Division A and Division L at AERA, to get a sense of how connected faculty are to policymakers, how they work with different levels of policy at the state, local, and national levels. Again, to sort of get a sense from the field about how faculty are interacting with policy and making decisions or helping inform decisions around policy that are relevant to schools and leadership. We've had a long-standing partnership with the Wallace Foundation, and most recently helped in the design of what we're calling the redesign project, which includes, and that was a RFP process, and those programs have already been selected by the Wallace Foundation, but UCA is actually a big part of both helping develop that project, but then gathering information on the impact of that project on programs and faculty. Concomitantly, UCA developed a design network of schools that were not, or programs, I'm sorry, that were not selected by the Wallace Foundation, but still wanted to participate in a redesign effort at the local level. So those are, again, two big projects that are happening nationally. Many of you probably know about the Jackson Scholars and the Clark Scholars. Those are both ongoing efforts that happen every year, both at UCA convention and at AERA, and is an important part of the way that we enact the values that we talked about earlier. A new initiative that we're planning for the plenum this year is to do a book club. And so we've selected a book called Detroit American Autopsy, and hopefully we'll be getting that to everybody along with some guiding questions and having conversations around the context of where the convention is happening this year, and thinking carefully about, well, how is that framed, and what are the implications for schools and leaders in Detroit, but then also what are the implications for us as we go back to our institutions. You can go to the next slide. Thank you. So it's actually a nice segue into the plenum in November. So the plenum is going to be Wednesday, November 16th, and Thursday morning. And so we're going to be starting Wednesday morning. So we're asking plenum reps to arrive Tuesday evening on the 15th and be ready to go when we start on Wednesday. We're doing something a little different this year. We're asking, we'll be sending, we're trying, I guess, partly, so we'll be sending you some information beforehand that we need you to take action on before arriving to the plenum. And that's going to include things like headquarter updates and things that are happening at the organizational level. But once we get at Detroit, there'll be some other policy updates. UCEA also contributed, or actually one of our publications was a handbook on research and education of school leaders. So a book that's come out just this past winter. So you'll be getting that book, and we'll be doing some sort of deconstructing and analysis of some of the findings in that. There'll also be updates from other initiatives that are happening, and we're also planning a panel of clinical faculty to talk to us about not just their roles, but how they interact with UCEA, and what are ways in which we can be more responsive to that. So those are some of the things that we're going to be doing once we get to the plenum. Once we also get to the plenum, you may also hear people talking about appreciative inquiry, or AI. And so I just wanted to give a brief overview of what that effort was that actually began, oh gosh, almost 2 years ago now, where all the plenum reps participated in the process of sort of planning and analyzing, organizing, again, looking at visioning some where they would like UCA to be. We asked plenum members to interview each other and send us the responses from those interviews. The EC then did some data analysis from that, and some of the initiatives like the redesign, like the UCA Program Design Network came out of those AI efforts and conversations. And so we worked with the plenum over a series of months on both as a way to understand UCA as it exists now, but then also to think about where UCA needs to go. A lot of the emphasis on policy also has come out most recently from the AI, where plenum members said that they wanted to see UCA taking a larger role in policy conversations at the national and the state levels. So again, we use that term AI quite a bit, and I wanted to make sure that you knew what that was about. The other thing is that as new plenum members, you'll be getting a plenum partner, a veteran plenum person who will help you, transition into the role, someone that you can talk to if you have questions or don't understand something. And so, that person, you'll meet them when we get to the plenum in November. But obviously, you can speak to any other plenum person that you might know. You may want to touch base with your former plenum rep at your institution to see, what advice they may have for you, particularly around the threat analysis survey. They may have gotten the link to it, so you might want to check with them to see whether or not someone from your organization did that. Because that's actually, we started looking at some of that data that's coming back, and it's really interesting. So you'll be hearing about that as well at the plenum. So that's sort of our spiel, and hopefully giving you a sense of who we are and what it is to be plenum. So I just want to open it up to questions. I guess, Stephanie, we need to unmute everybody, and then see what kind of questions people have about anything that we've talked about, or maybe something that we haven't talked about.
Hi, Monica. This is David at University of Virginia.
David?
So this is a really simple question. I was trying to sort out what my responsibilities were regarding the plenum. For some reason, thought it began later on Wednesday than you indicated. Would you mind just running down what times we're expected to be there? And, you know, what, basically I booked an early morning flight, so I'm worried now I have to rebook.
Stephanie, could you confirm the start and ending dates of the plenum, please? Anybody, if anyone has them, I can't get the computer right now, so.
Or I'll run downstairs and ask Stephanie too.
That's true.
Which is
No,
probably
I
what I should have done.
want to make sure everyone has the same information.
You know, I was actually thinking, Monica, it might be good for others. I don't know if they know who Stephanie is or the office here.
Oh, great
Maybe
idea.
a little description of who they are, and because it's a wonderful operation here, I can attest to that.
Yes, that's a great idea, David. Thanks. Stephanie, do you want to introduce yourself, or do you want me to tell people how awesome you are?
Oh, hi, I'm Stephanie Maguire. I'm the administrative assistant. I'm the one kind of clicking through the slides today, so hopefully I've not confused everybody too much. But if you call UCEA or if you write to UCEA, you usually get me. So I try and answer as many questions as I can or send your questions off to the correct person. That's pretty much me.
So Stephanie is pretty much the backbone of what happens at headquarters. We also have a couple of postdoctorates that work on. We have a policy postdoc that is working now on some of the initiatives of threat analysis and the network analysis that we talked about. Leva Pitts, you've probably gotten lots of emails from her. She's our convention manager and planning person. And so she, go to her with all things convention, and go to Stephanie for all things UCEA. All right, so Dave, while we're looking that up, does anyone else have any other questions or?
Hey, Monica, this is Nathan from University of Texas, San Antonio.
Hey, Nathan.
Hey, a quick question. I think in one of the slides, someone mentioned that we vote on what changes or some changes in membership. I'm just curious what that means, changes in membership.
Gerardo, do you want to talk about that, or?
I mean, there's lots of issues with respect to membership. Membership decisions. New members. We as a plenum, the plenum gets to decide whether to kind of accept new members into this organization. In the past, and I'm sure that Bob Donmoyer probably has a lot of history and knowledge about this. There have been some pretty heated debates about organizations that have applied and whether they kind of have the the values that that we have as an organization. And so I think that there's a lot of key issues that get taken up with respect to members and membership that are that get kind of hashed out within both the executive committee as well as the plenum.
Thank you.
So this is Megan. Naisa Barakat from Florida Atlantic University. I found on the program the times on Wednesday from 12 till 5:30. The first session, the plenary session number 1, runs from 12 to 5:30. If that's helpful to everybody. And also, I had a question about the mentor or the person, the like seasoned plenum rep that's going to be paired with the new ones. Is that assigned randomly, or do we get to suggest somebody? How does that work?
Those are usually assigned by, I would say, probably mostly randomly. We try to also think about regionals so that your plenum rep is someone that might be, in case that is helpful. But yes.
Okay, thank you.
And I just got a message from Barbara that she needs to be unmuted, so I pass that on. And then Jamie also made a good point. Just to be clear that membership at UCEA is actually done on an institutional level. So we have 100 member institutions. Obviously, each institution has a number of faculty that, by virtue of being part of that program, have access to UCEA initiatives, resources, opportunities. And so we're unlike AERA, in which AERA is a individual a membership. So just know that when we're talking about UCEA members, we're talking about the actual universities that are part of the UCEA consortium. And I think that probably goes to your question, Nathan, that decisions around membership is mostly around institutions, not around people. And we just got confirmation that the plenum starts at noon. So, David, thanks for picking that up. We arrive on Monday as the EC, and so it all merges.
Correction, we arrive on Sunday. We start meeting on Monday morning.
Oh, you guys.
Exactly.
I know, I was just getting ready to say Monday.
We're ready to get to work on Monday. I don't know what time you guys get there on Sunday. But yeah, so we begin on noon on Wednesday the 16th, and we start super early on the 17th. I think it's a 7 o'clock start on the 17th.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, no, thank you for picking that up.
I think if there's no other questions coming in right now, this is David again. Just interested in what you had mentioned. There's a shift more towards international partners, and I'm wondering whether there's some. I used to work in the UK. I know I was connected with UC. We have a Belmas organization there, but we never had a kind of plenum rep presence on Belmas, from Belmas to UCEA. It was a good collaboration. I'm wondering if there's any thought of something like that with international organizations, or maybe there is something and I just don't know about it.
Great. I'll take this question, if that's all right. Yeah, there's a couple of things. I mean, because I think the international interest is twofold. The first one is that there are actual universities internationally that are either have become members of UCEA or are interested in becoming members of UCEA. Mm-hmm. So, there's, I think, right now we have an institution in Hong Kong. There's some other schools, universities, I think, in the Middle East and Australia. So, more and more universities in international contexts want to become institutional members of UCEA. So that's one piece of it. The other piece of it is developing these memorandum of understanding with sort of similar organizations in international contexts. So Belmas being one of them, where we have a memorandum of understanding where there's dialogue back and forth and some planning. We're trying to develop similar MOUs with other parts of the world, and looking at sort of what other opportunities are available for for institutions in countries where an individual membership may not be feasible, and so thinking about developing networks that we can then have memorandums of understanding with as well. I think more recently, the World Educational Research Association, which is sort of AERA on steroids, we're also in conversations with them about developing some sort of MOU to do some work together as well. So I think that at the organizational level, that's where our conversations and efforts have been going on with the international context. And part of this is actually building on the work of individual faculty and the work that these faculty are doing in international contexts and the partnerships that they're developing with universities in other countries. So that link, going back to the role of the PSR, that linkage role that some faculty are making with other institutions in other countries is actually coming back and strengthening the organization and informing what we do. I think on Sunday of the convention is the International Summit, and that every year that keeps growing. And so I think this year we've got some programs both here and some international sort of voices coming to talk about the work that different institutions are doing in Tanzania. Last year we heard about some other institutions. So every year the International Summit is sort of growing. So if that is something that you're interested in pursuing, then I would really encourage you to, yes, stay until Sunday afternoon and go to the summit on Sunday. I'll be there.
Okay, thank you.
Just to kind of, go ahead. Please follow up.
A follow-up question, but you can go, and then I'll ask it later.
Okay. Well, no, I was just gonna to follow up on Monica's response. We have had I guess a scattered presence internationally. I know that I'm trying to remember what was the name of this one gentleman when we had I think it was University of Nottingham, if I'm not mistaken, who became a member institution. We had he became an EC rep, and actually I'm pretty sure made it into the executive committee as well. So we the name just slipped my mind. Really good guy, nice gentleman. But anyway, we've also had a strong presence trying to develop outward relations with folks. So Steve Jacobson, I think, has done a lot of work. Former UCA president Laurie Johnson has done a lot of work internationally. Bruce Barnett has been kind of our international liaison, and I think that really just again trying to create these kinds of linkages internationally is certainly something that's critically important for us as an organization, and something that we've been working on for quite some time. So this isn't necessarily a new initiative, but something that's been ongoing for many, many years.
Great, thank you.
My follow-up question, well, first of all, a statement. I'm glad you're working with some flexibility in terms of consortia when it isn't reasonable for an individual institution necessarily to become a member. But I was also wondering if, in the case of institutional membership, whether the current sort of application template needs to be adjusted. My experience in New Zealand, and I may be out of date, but I don't think what was being done in terms of educational leader preparation would lend itself easily to the template that people are expected to write to when they're applying. And I'm just wondering if there's been any thought given to that, or is this no longer a problem? Is every program in the world sufficiently like ours, like programs in the U.S., that everybody can respond to the same North American template? Is that question clear?
Yes. I mean, I think it's definitely something that that has been evolving. I think you're right. I think that the traditional membership is still very U.S.-centric. I think that's one of the reasons we've begun working with some universities to develop MOUs as a way to get a better sense of what makes sense in different countries and in different parts of the world, because you're right, the preparation looks differently. and is provided differently depending on where we are. So I think, yeah, I think those are definitely points that we need to keep coming back to ensure that our process doesn't necessarily get in the way of someone wanting to become a member.
Thank you.
Nope. Barbara, you have your hand up. You're on the phone, and so we actually can't unmute you, but you probably can unmute yourself. Not sure if you're hearing me. Anything else? I feel like we've thrown a lot of information at you, so anything that we can do to help you make sense of it. I guess if there aren't any more questions or comments, we can say that we've been very efficient and we can finish early. April or Gerardo or Tara, do you have any sort of final comments?
No, I would just say welcome to the plenum. We look forward to meeting all of you in November, for those of you that I haven't met.
Yeah, no, I would echo that. I would also say, you know, being a PSR was a really positive experience for me. It was instrumental in my kind of orientation and socialization into the field of educational leadership, and I created some really great relationships, obviously, that have led to me being on the EC and other kinds of things, and I hope that you find a similar pathway, and please know that we're here for you if you have questions. ECA isn't as big and overwhelming as 8 ERA can be, but it still can be a little bit unwieldy. So if you have questions about being a PSR or something isn't clear, I hope that you've taken away the message that we're happy to help. You should reach out, and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great opportunity. I mean, we obviously all started off as plenum reps, and so you learn a lot really quick, but it's also a great, I've always seen it as a great professional development opportunity. So yes, we look forward to seeing you on Wednesday, November, I'm gonna get the date wrong, whatever that Wednesday is, the 16th, at noon, I guess is when we're starting. I just want to also really thank you for volunteering, or hopefully you volunteered and weren't volunteered. But thank you for volunteering to be a plenum rep. We'll do whatever we can to make this transition as smooth as possible for you. And as Tara said, we're absolutely available before the convention, as well as during the convention, if you have any questions that you have, or comments or concerns that you want to share with us. Having said that, thank you very much. Go forth and continue your day, and we'll see you in